So I get this phone call from my son. And he says, Dad, Mr. Youngblood stopped me in the parking lot. And he said that I have to be really careful. He said that my life is in danger and that I should make sure that I'm never without any other kids the whole time I'm here in Vegas. He goes, and I'm really scared. And my kid's 15 years old.
Yeah.
And he's just terrified when he calls me on the phone. So Coda gets on the phone and he says, look, Eris and Alex are at the Canyon Ridge High School track. They're at the track. Eris is wearing a blue sweatshirt, says Elite Hockey Academy on it. Alex is there. Cartel's watching them. My guys are watching them as well. But this is getting serious. Like, they're now following your kids in the neighborhood. I need more money. So I wrote another check. Within a month, I get another phone call. I've written more checks since then that says, oh my God, I get a call from James and I get a call from my friend. And then I finally speak to Coda that says his son has been murdered. I was told that his throat was cut and his tongue was pulled through his throat, and on his body were tattooed the initials of my children and myself, and that we were next. And he tells me, if you don't believe this, go to my house in Maynard, Texas, and talk to my wife. So I knock on the door again, and I'm like, Gloria, it's Eric. Please open the door. And she opens the door and puts a Glock and cocks it at my forehead. And for the next 10 minutes, she holds it. Now, she's 5'3". She holds this gun, her hands shaking, pressed against my forehead. And I talk to her about the death of her son. And she's crying and telling me that her son is murdered and that it's my fault because her husband was helping me, and then my ex-wife trying to kill my kids got her son killed. So whatever you think I didn't know and I was stupid about, you tell me a mother who's a doctor puts a gun to your forehead and tells her kid's dead. What do? You write more checks.
Yeah.
To keep your kids alive.
Welcome back to the Get Back Podcast. I'm Zeke Pike, here with my co-host Greg Kelly.
And today we have a special guest, our first guest back on the Get Back Podcast, Eric Perardi. I know him personally through family, through friends. I got to meet Eric a couple years ago. Crazy story he had just went through. Literally, it just got resolved within a couple months ago. I feel for the guy, specifically for me personally being taken advantage of at one point in my life by the justice system. I can't even imagine what it would feel like to be taken advantage by somebody you truly trusted. His story has to do with a huge American scam, one of the largest white-collar criminal convictions, I think the 7th in U.S. history. It's about to hit the highway of media because it just finished up, and I'm super proud to have Eric Perardi on the Get Back Podcast and to get to know a little bit more about your story. So
Welcome
what's
to
up,
the
Eric?
Get Back.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
This is your Get Back story,
It
huh?
is. Yeah, it is. I mean, you guys having me is an honor. I've been watching from the beginning.
Well, we're glad to have you, man. And it's kind of unique how we've all met, and I always think it's incredible how God just brings you around people, that need to be in your life, right? And so I think one thing that we can all relate to, at least me, you, and Greg, is like being completely down at the bottom and having to build it back up and really get back on your feet. And so take us kind of from the beginning, right? Like this is your episode, man. And so, tell us who you are and kind of where it all started and walk us through and we'll just have conversation through it, man. I'm anxious to hear it.
Yeah. Well, unlike you all, I experienced my fall a lot later in life. I had a pretty incredible life up until this happened. I grew up in the Midwest, went on to play Division I hockey, and at RPI was able to win a championship at ECAC. Went out to LA, became an actor and a writer, played pro beach hockey out there, have an engineering degree. Decided to pursue a real estate development world. So I moved to Austin in about 2006. Have 4 beautiful children now after that, and really embarked on this incredible journey of being able to build medical office buildings. And then Sports Center is how Greg and I got to meet. I built this facility called the Crossover. It's a 240,000 square foot sports wellness and entertainment center. And I heard about Greg's story, obviously, in the media, and then was fortunate enough to meet Greg's then his girlfriend's parents that were in Move Dance Studio, and we got along great. They decided to move their studio into the Crossover right when COVID and everything started, and then I've seen him get married. I've seen him have a kid, and I got to meet you, Zeke, through Greg. So it's been pretty extraordinary life up to that point. But I think, like you said, most of that I took credit for. Most of that I thought was all me. Mm-hmm. And God decided to humble me a little bit and teach me who God really was, and that I should take a little more humility in my decisions every day. So kind of began this story. I don't know where you want me to start with it, but the Crossover is an interesting place.
Yeah. So I remember my first interaction with you was, of course, through David, my father-in-law. And first time I had ever met you was when you gave us a tour of the Crossover when it wasn't even open. It was like, I think the skeleton was just being built, and you were showing us the layout and like where Move would potentially be, because there wasn't like a contract yet of like them going in. You were just showing us. And I remember meeting you and David talking you up as like, you know, how successful you are and all that. And I was like, it was really cool to meet you because of, you know, I always want to meet people that have done more life than me, I just started a business. So I was like, oh man, it'd be really cool to meet him, get to pick his brain on business and stuff. And, then, you know, we toured the Crossover, and, after that Move ended up moving in, getting a bunch of space. Move ended up becoming successful within the Crossover, got some extra space. And then I remember David one time telling me, like, he texted us in the family group chat. He's like, hey, Eric's really going through something right now. And it just hit. I was like, what is he going through? And he said that, you know, there's something. I remember the first thing was the divorce or the infidelity that was happening.
Yeah.
And he's like, just pray for Eric. He's going through something in his marriage right now. I didn't know the specifics. I just know that there's infidelity, there's his wife, there's this, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I will. And then he had, you know, time went on, and it was like, well, now Eric's like being attacked. Like he's stuck in something. He's stuck in what looks like now a scam. So what's scam? And I'm thinking that it's your ex-wife's, you know,
right,
lover, or I think it was ex-boyfriend.
Boyfriend, yeah.
So yeah, I don't even want to talk about it. I want you to talk about it, and I want you to start us. You know,
I mean, I think
you feel like,
take us like from the jump, right? Because coming from somebody who's I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of scams, right, and not at the level that I think the sickness of the nature of this. And so start us from the beginning. And I'd imagine a lot of that has to do with probably your marriage at the time. And, but the hockey, I know that played a big factor in it. So you just take us back from the beginning, and we'll run through and let you tell the story, because I think I have a lot of questions about it as well.
Well, one of the things I do want to say before I even start, it's interesting because when David came to the Crossover, obviously the city of Cedar Park was still in a pretty vicious fight with Greg over what had happened with him. And I remember several of the council members and people kind of suggesting that we maybe not look at Move coming in there because the Greg Kelly thing hadn't gone on. And I was adamant, like, A, he's innocent, and B, these are the type of people we're putting in this building, you know, people that believe in God and followed through with their family and never left them from behind.
Yeah.
And they've been that way with Greg. They were that way with me when I went through all of this. And I don't know if Greg remembers, but I'm going to get into it. In the middle of it, I went to coffee with Greg at Red Horn, and some of the things you told me probably saved my life along the way.
Wow.
So, yeah, I want to say thank you for that, because I don't know if I've ever told you that.
No, it's a pleasure's all mine. I'm really happy.
Yeah.
You got something out of that.
So, man, infidelity is a tough thing, right? And look, I was guilty of it in my first marriage, so it's not like I'm sitting here throwing stones, but it kind of hit me out of nowhere. And my ex had some nefarious friends and characters, and there was some money issues and things that were very questionable. And a lot of that, happens, and then the devil kind of shows up at your door, right? It was the premier opportunity. So to take it back, I had coached hockey for years in Austin, and one of the ideas of building the crossover with the other people that were involved was the idea that we would expand youth hockey and grow it in the state of Texas, especially in the Austin market. Like I said, I had played college hockey, had played out in LA, and I just had a passion for wanting to get more kids into the sport. So that was kind of the initial part of the crossover. And I had coached a group of kids they kind of started coaching when they were like 4 years old. So by this time, at the beginning of this story, they're about 12 or 13. So my middle son, everything in hockey is an 06 birth year. So he's an 06 birth year. There's a group of kids that were 06. So prior to the opening of the crossover, we were having tryouts for that season. And that team was the first team to ever play AA hockey in the state of Texas from Austin when they were younger. We'd gone up to Dallas, beat all the Dallas teams, won a bunch of tournaments, and Dallas was not always that happy with us. So I had the same group of kids. And I remember hearing about this kid, Coda Youngblood, and this is the son of the person we're going to talk about. And he was kind of a phenom in the sense that you all played football. In hockey, you really want to start when you're 3 or 4 years old, because you got to learn to skate first, right?
Yeah.
So there are not a lot of kids that just pick it up at 11, 12 years old and start playing the game. It's a hard game to play.
It's expensive too.
Oh, really expensive. And so this kid had gone through the Learn to Skate program, the Learn to Play program at an accelerated rate. And, Native American kids, which we all believed he was, are phenomenal athletes. I don't know if you ever played with some of them in sports. So it was kind of like, okay, this kid's a great athlete. Like, he picked it up fast. So he plays 1 year of rec hockey with some of my best friends, and I'm hearing about this kid. And then they're telling me, okay, he's going to try out for your travel team. And look, the travel roster in hockey was, those same 14 or 15 kids were making it every year. They just were beating out the other kids. So this kid Coda tries out for the team, and he beat him and another kid, Mateo Kumar, beat out 2 kids on the team, like 2 kids that had been on this team for like 4 or 5 years. So, and I took a special interest in him because I was just fascinated with the fact that he was that good. This kid had a rocket of a shot, could learn to skate a little better, but just had some real natural ability. So, you pick a team like that, you got to know the parents, you get to know the parents, and we all travel together. So his mom is a doctor. She's an MD. And then his dad, who I'd heard a lot about at this point. So to describe Coda Youngblood, which I'm going to refer to him now, and we'll change his name later when all of this comes out. He is this menacing he's about my size, maybe a little bit bigger, but he's always dressed in black. Always kind of had like a money fanny pack on him, wore these kind of black Crocs, had tattoos on his hands, tattoos on his arms, not dissimilar to yours, jet black hair, like used to, refer to himself as Khalil, Superman. Oh, in the military, they called me Khalil because of my jet black hair. But I had heard all these stories from these other parents about him being ex-Special Forces, 82nd Airborne, Purple Heart, was this decorated veteran, now worked kind of for the FBI or one of the 3-letter agencies, was always flying, always gone a lot, always had cash on him. So there was this air of mystery that I knew from the other parents about him. So it's funny because you look back and you're like, did you open the door to the devil? Because me not being the strong Christian that I am today and not having really that armor around me was fascinated with, I'd like to meet this guy and I want to learn more about him. I don't know if you guys have met people like that in your life. You're just like, it seems like, it was almost like the most interesting man in the world commercials, right?
Yeah.
You're like, wow.
You probably suffer from like discernment too.
Yeah.
Because I think when you get stronger in your faith too, you have a discernment towards people that are fabricating their appearance and authentic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely, not to say the other parents were boring, but I'm believing my own hype a little bit. I've created the crossover. I'm coach. I brought Austin hockey. You start reading your own press clippings, as we all have done. So this person was interesting to me. Like, he's different than the rest of the dads, right?
Yeah.
So, and his son is such a good kid and became a really good friend of my son's. I would hope not by design, but at this point, I couldn't tell you whether that was on purpose or by accident. But my son's best friend, Alex, and my son, Eris, had pretty much grown up together. Coda became kind of the third one of them, and they all hung out together. I mean, kid would come to my house, spend time with Gloria, his wife, who was the doctor. And I built medical office buildings before I built the crossover. So Gloria and I had a lot in common because she was an MD. So I would talk to her about how I offered physician ownership in buildings and this. So for a year, 2 years, I know Coda as this guy who's mysterious.
He went by Coda too.
Yeah. Coda Senior as this mysterious guy. And he was so genuine, like come up to you. Hey, coaches, thank you so much for coaching my son. He thinks of you like a dad. He would buy us dinner. If we were all out at a restaurant, he'd pay for the coaches tab. If we were downstairs after games, he'd buy us drinks. He didn't drink. So, as somebody who grew up as an athlete whose entire life is words of affirmation, right? I mean, I used to joke, you give me $1 million or tell me I did a great job, I'll say goodbye to the $1 million. Thank you very much for telling me I did a great job. So he played into that. I mean, my ego, my love of being felt special, he played into that over and over again. So I felt like he was a friend, like somebody I could trust, somebody that I could really rely on. I had gone, I went to military school. I should have mentioned that. So I left home at 16 years old to go to military school to play hockey. So I had a ton of friends, and I had 2 offers to go play at the Air Force Academy. And then I had tons of friends who were like really high ranking military officers, been through 9/11, were in the military, fought in Afghanistan, because I graduated high school in 89. So all of my friends were in the Iraq War, in Afghanistan, in 9/11, still serving. I would go back for a reunion. So I had a huge love of the military. And my father-in-law or ex-father-in-law at the time, it was Army Ranger. And him and Coda Sr. had several conversations about the military. And Coda has Special Forces tattoos on his body, which we'll get to later of how he got those. And I've been in authentic conversations with military people who verified those are real tattoos, like of those divisions. So this is on a level like nobody I knew didn't think he was in the military. His wife and his kids told us all that he was in the military. I mean, this is like you met, the guy that killed bin Laden. I mean, that's the type of person he portrayed himself as. But he did it in such a humble way where he would talk about himself to other people in private conversations, and then they would brag about him. And he would only talk to you about it one-on-one if you brought it up. So it wasn't like he walked into a room and went, I did this and this. But he was really good. Like if a Black Hawk helicopter went down in the news, he'd be like, yeah, those controls are hard. I used to fly Black Hawk. Like he just knew something about everything.
He's very well articulated.
Oh, so articulate and just well-versed, supposedly spoke 6 or 7 languages, traveled all over the world. I mean,
yeah.
Looking back now, you're like, okay, there are a lot of red flags, but at the time, and
So
he didn't ask me for money for like
Yeah.
3 years. He's just my friend, right?
Yeah.
So this
And
is
his family's believing. I mean, they're full
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point, you kids are what?
They're like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know, and when we talked about it, like started traveling a lot, I think, right?
Yep,
Like,
yep.
So
We're spending a lot of time together, right?
And
So-
hockey is a lot of travel team stuff, right?
Yeah, like we go to Los Angeles, we go to Arizona, go to Canada, go to New York, a lot of times in Dallas. So spent a lot of time with his wife and sometimes him. He couldn't make all of the trips.
But he knew you were going to these different
Oh
destinations.
yeah, he definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was, and you know, the money that's being spent, there's a lot of money being spent. And he would always, like I said, if it was your birthday, he'd give you $100. He'd give money to the kids. A couple times they were in Vegas. He's like, here, take some money, you know, go do something fun with it. So he was a very generous person. So that, when my wife, ex-wife, I find out about the infidelity, my son happened that year to make the Dallas Stars travel team, the AAA team up in Dallas. So Eris, the same kid that played with Coda, left and moved to Dallas that season.
Hmm.
So I didn't coach that season that the divorce began. But young Coda is still on the same team that I built and coached. So I would go and see their games. I mean, these were all the kids that I grew up coaching. And my son was up in Dallas playing at the time, and him and one other kid had made it. So, you know, divorce is brutal. And it was like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, like he said, she said, because she worked for me at the crossover. Like your family, Greg, knew her. Like, you know, like it was a whole thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So none of that was pretty. And there were, you know, rumors about her and the infidelity and the different things that were going on. So there are these social media posts that happen that basically slander her, and they tag the crossover and the field house and a bunch of businesses that I have, and then slandering her and claiming about sex parties and drugs and this. And like suddenly my whole divorce turns and I'm being blamed for these social media posts. And I don't know where to turn. So I hire lawyers, like civil lawyers. And like there were like the divorce was heading in one direction. She had kind of tested positive for some things and it was heading in direction. And then it just took an entirely different course. And I had to hire like private investigators. I had all of my computers and my phones scrubbed to prove that I didn't do these posts. And all of a sudden, what I thought was heading towards a settlement becomes this. I mean, we walked into a mediation in the middle of June, and she asked for $3 million and full custody of my child. And I'm like, first off, I don't have $3 million. I mean, the perception, I think, with him and her and a lot of people is that developers are super rich. We're like real estate rich, cash poor, right? You know, it's all tied up in real estate. So the perception was that I had all this money. And he had come to me and offered to help me find out if the social media posts were true. And they were like that she had past drug convictions. And like, he started to weave these stories, like, but I mean, the stories were unbelievable. Like he knew about her and her ex-husband in Florida. He knew about the brigade, the division her father-in-law were in. Like he knew things that I had never told anyone and that only her and my family knew. And he purported himself that he knew these things because he was in special forces and government. And at that time, he reveals to me that he works with, you know, he's kind of the go-between between the drug cartels and the federal government. And he has this. So he was his job that he claimed was a front was that he collected coins, and he had this metallurgic degree and engineering degree, that he had rare toys. And some of my friends had been to his house, and he had artwork and like original Star Wars characters still in the box, and a Spider-Man comic book, and gold coins, and, you know, this Fabergé eggs. And so just eccentric things. And he said that those things were the fronts so that he could do his job.
Mm.
This is where it gets a little. So my son, that summer in June, Eris, the one that was playing in Dallas, Adam Powell, who you know, Greg, that runs the crossover, is the head of our hockey thing. He takes a group of like 14 kids every year to Vegas, and they do this showcase. I don't know if you guys had that in football, where kids go and they get to play in front of college scouts and boarding school. So these kids would all go, and sometimes the families would go. I went the year before in Vegas, and this year I'm going through this brutal divorce, and I'm living away from home and trying to figure out my life, and all the social media stuff's happened. And, you know, I've got these lawyer fees and my businesses are collapsing. So I choose not to go. But Coda Jr.'s there. Eris, my son, is there. And then Coda Sr. happened to be there as well with Gloria.
Yeah.
So I get this phone call from my son. And he says, Dad, Mr. Youngblood stopped me in the parking lot. And he said that I have to be really careful. He said that my life is in danger and that I should make sure that I'm never without any other kids the whole time I'm here in Vegas. He goes, and I'm really scared. My kid's 15 years old.
Yeah.
And he's just terrified when he calls me on the phone. And then that phone call follows up with Adam and another friend, Eric. And they're like, dude, we just sat down in the bleachers with Coda. We can't talk about this over the phone, but he's going to call you from an unknown number. So you were never allowed to really talk to Coda. He like had these unknown numbers and burner phones, and then he would call Eric or someone else that I knew, and then they would patch him in. Like, so I never had any phone numbers of his or direct access to him at all at this time. And Eric, my friend, had already told me, like, he had uncovered all of the stuff that my ex was pissed off about, these social media posts, that her father was getting involved. He was in the military. Their family had money. They were going to prove that I had done it. And, you know, so he was like, stay off your phone. And so the paranoia had already kind of been setting in. And then literally days before, my ex-wife asked me for this $3.5 million in custody of my kid. So they're like, he's going to call you in the morning with an unknown number, and he's going to come to your house. I'm like, okay, what's this about? They're like, well, he talked to Eris, and your family is in danger, and you just need to listen to him. I don't know what else to say. I can't say it over the phone. But my friends were terrified, and they're not in on this. Never were they ever, but they're terrified. So I get the phone call at like 7 a.m. I remember my 6-year-old daughter, who was 3 at the time, is asleep in the bed, the house that I'm renting. And it's him. And he says, I need you to tell me your address. And he writes it down. He goes, I'm going to be there in like 20 minutes. So I come in the house, and every time you were with him, you always had to turn your cell phone off, leave it somewhere else, make sure you don't have cameras outside. I mean, everything was clandestine. It was very much like, like that Will Smith movie with Will Smith and Gene Hackman, Enemy of the State, right? Where everything was like that. So we go outside on the patio, and he begins to tell me the story. And the story is that my ex-wife has hired, through a boyfriend of hers that was in jail with Las Citas, which is a criminal cartel that had broken off from the Sinaloa cartels. Now, look, I've learned more about cartels than I ever wanted to know in my life. She has put up money through her aunt's dealership, the Toyota dealership, that she's hired them to kidnap my son, Eris. And when they kidnap him, I'm going to pay a ransom. And when I go to pay the ransom, I'm going to be killed, and he's going to be killed. And it's for my $7 million life insurance policy. Now, what's half of $7 million? $3.5 million. And he knows my life insurance policy He knows who it's with. He knows the numbers. He knows the bank account numbers I have. And he's my friend. And he says, man, I don't know what to do. But the guy that helped me get this information is NSA. He works with me on a lot of stuff. He's going to be in a lot of trouble for even doing this, but I've asked him to look into your divorce and what's going on. And this is what we found. We've got tapes, audio, video of this going down in Cedar Park. He describes where it happened, by the crossover, Red Robin restaurant. I mean, details after details. And it's like an hour of this conversation. And he's like, look, I've got this guy who's a clock dealer in Pflugerville. His name's James Holloway. You can look him up. He worked for 3M. He fixes clocks. James has the ability to write a check, cash it at the Wells Fargo countertop into cash because he deals with clocks and antique things. So he's allowed to cash these checks. I'm going to take that cash. I need you to write a check for $70,000 and I'm going to keep your children safe and I'm going to get this information. And I need you to disappear. So he tells me that if I have Mazzy, my daughter, I'm safe because Rach, my ex, would never harm me while she was with me. But I have a 50-50 custody. So I've got my boys who are home for the summer and then my daughter, and then they leave every other weekend. And then in divorce world, you get your kid for 2 weeks in the summertime and the other parent gets him for 2 weeks. So I'm about to come up on my 2 week of no Mazzy. And he's like, you need to leave Austin and you need to make sure your son is somewhere safe. I'm going to watch him, but you need to go. So the girl that I was dating at the time, bless her, she used her credit cards and we went on a trip. We went to New Orleans, stayed a couple nights. Then we went to Nashville, stayed a couple nights. And then we went to Miami. And I told no one where I was. And we flew and then stayed in hotels and it was all booked through her credit cards. So when I'm in New Orleans, I get a phone call from my friend who patches him in and says, it's much worse than I thought. Not only can I not get your money back, I need more. It's gotten worse. And I'm like, he's like, look, they're ramping it up. They want it to happen. They want to try to kidnap Eris while you're gone. I need you to send money. And I'm like, New Orleans does not have a Wells Fargo, which I had no idea that Louisiana does not carry Wells Fargo. So he's like, okay, what can you do? I said, well, I need to transfer money from and I had a home equity line of account. And this is where God's going to step in. So the same bank that I did the deal with the crossover was out of Washington State. After I did the deal with the crossover, the banker was like, hey, you want to refinance your house and redo your mortgage? I was like, sure. So I took my mortgage from a Texas bank to a Washington State bank. Now, this is going to be very important because when he gets convicted, it's going to be for transferring money across state lines. So I literally have why would I have a Washington State bank? I have my money in a Washington State bank to refinance the house. So I wire money from Washington State to my Texas Wells Fargo account. I write a check in New Orleans for another $90,000. I get James's home address and FedEx the check overnight, which I'm pay for through my girlfriend's credit card. James then cashes the check and gives it to Coda to keep my kids alive. So now we go to Nashville and I don't hear from him. And he's supposed to meet me in Miami to give me my money back. We fly to Miami and I get a phone call the first morning I'm in Miami. And it's my friend, Eric. And he says, he's terrified. And he says, I'm going to patch you in. Eris and Alex are in trouble. So now his kid is in trouble for being around my kid. So Coda gets on the phone and he says, look, Eris and Alex are at the Canyon Ridge High School track. This is like 9 or 10 in the morning in Miami, which would make it 8 or 9 here. They're at the track. Eris is wearing a blue sweatshirt, says Elite Hockey Academy on it. Alex is there. They're running around the track, training for hockey. Cartel's watching them. My guys are watching them as well. But this is getting serious. Like, they're now following your kids in the neighborhood. I need more money. And Eric's on the phone with me, panicked as well, saying, this is true. So I pick up the phone and I call my son, Eris. I'm like, where are you? It's like, Dad, we're running at the track. I'm like, what are you wearing? It's like a blue sweatshirt, my Elite Hockey cat. I mean, he describes the scene.
Yeah.
And Eris had turned off his location, like 360. I was like, turn your location on, go to your mother's, go back to Alex's house. Dude, call me. I need to know where you are at all times. So I wrote another check and sent it. So, I mean, this gets so detailed after this, but the biggest thing, so I move back into my house. The judge gives me my home. They break into my home. He convinces me to drug sweep my home. So I pay like $2,000 to have drug dogs come through my home. And then also the police to look through my home for listening devices. So he's telling me that she's leaving things behind to listen to me and watch my whereabouts. So I do all that. I leave that weekend after they sweep the house. I come back, and on the shelf is a box of bullets that had been missing from my gun that I believe that my ex had taken, and a hockey cap. And then the golf cart in my garage was vandalized. And we had this big fight weeks before in court about the golf cart, and I'd won the house back. So now his appearance is that she had someone break into the house, leave this box of bullets. So now he's like, I need you to get, I'm like, so he comes over to the house, plastic gloves, the whole thing, bags the bullets, bags the hat, says he runs forensics on it, that my missing gun that's been stolen, the bullets are in it, and they were used for a crime. And they're going to frame me.
Man, this guy.
So I write another check.
But are you saying he was telling you he was going to give you the money back?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
So,
I don't understand that, though, I guess.
So, yeah.
He was saying he's going to give it back to you. Like, what was it for that he was going to give it back to you?
Well, so he's claiming he's also spending money to keep my children safe. The guy, James, who I now have met, the clock dealer, is telling me that code is real. All of this is real. That James's son is missing, and that his grandchildren have been sold into sex slavery. This guy's 75 years old.
And he's in on it with Coda?
He's not convicted, Greg, so is he in on it? Yes. Was he convicted? Absolutely not.
Wow.
But Lane was missing. We'll get to that. His son was missing. His grandchildren were missing. And James Holloway raised $4.5 million from his friends to save his son's life and his grandchildren from being sex trafficked.
Whenever he was asking for this money, okay, from you periodically, it was just going higher and higher and higher. Was he giving you like a detailed account of what it was going to be used for?
Oh,
like
yeah.
How he's keeping you safe?
Absolutely.
So he articulated so much that because I'm thinking in my head, this guy is going to extreme measures to continue to have you trust him, and you have to trust him to send him that money.
Oh, yeah.
And let me ask you this before you move on, because I'm really interested in how this resolves. Because I know for a fact that when I see people get scammed, I'm like, that dude's a fool. Why would he send money like that to somebody? But let me ask you this, because it's kind of, you're saying it over and over again, right? You're saying this one specific thing. Let me ask you this. What's the most important thing to you in this world?
My children.
And that's what you said like 16 times already.
That's all I cared about.
And I'm thinking in my head, scammers, they figure out what the most important thing that's in the world to you, and he's zeroing in on it, and then he's making all these sub stories and trying to keep it that as the vocal point.
Right. He was never going to get a real estate investment out of me. He was never going to get me to buy some rare coin, because he's used these scams for other people.
Yeah.
He was never going to get me to give him money unless he got me this way. So his thing was, and you got to remember, my other friends are telling me that Youngblood has access to all this money, that he has this rare coin collection that his grandfather had given him that's sitting in Mexico, that he's been trying to get back for years. And this is the, hey, not only am I get the answer, your ex-wife's going to go to jail, your kids are going to be safe, but don't worry about it. I love you so much as a brother. I'm going to give you the money back. And I'm like, dude, I don't care about the money. I'm in the middle of a divorce, so I'm screwed that I wrote these checks to you out of my businesses. Like, if this is not real, I'm done, but I don't care. Like, my kids are safe. I lose everything I got. I don't care.
Yeah.
But there was and then James is saying that. Now he's got another guy, Marvin, who was ex-LAPD, who's saying it. I mean, there are 7 people telling me my children are going to be killed. This is not one person. It's not in a vacuum. His wife is saying it to me.
Yeah.
The clock dealer's saying it to me. I mean, these are what appear to be normal human beings that are his circle of friends.
He's proven himself credible.
Right. So, but I start to get pretty adamant that this is bullshit.
How's that?
Nothing has happened. He's asked for more money. The stories start to get ridiculous. They get more crazy until I get this phone call. I get a phone call from my friend and he says, oh my God, Coda's son's in trouble. And this, not Coda Jr., Eventine. So he has an older son that I had coached a few times in hockey that was going to college in California. And the story is that Eventine was in a fraternity in San Diego. The fraternity, he started to get involved with fentanyl. The fraternity got busted selling fentanyl. Eventine got sent to jail. I get a call from Gloria, Coda's wife, asking me to give them money because he's given so much money to protect my children to help them get lawyers to get Eventine out of jail. So I write that check. These are my friends. And now his kid's in danger. Eventine gets out of jail, goes back to college. Now, about within a month, I get another phone call. I've written more checks since then that says, oh my God, I get a call from James and I get a call from my friend. And then I finally speak to Coda that says his son has been murdered. So the story was that his son was murdered by the cartel. He went on vacation with his friends from the fraternity, who's one of the kids' dad was a head cartel member. They had believed because Eventine got out of jail so quickly compared to the other kids that he had flipped on the kids and been a rat. I was told that his throat was cut and his tongue was pulled through his throat, and on his body were tattooed the initials of my children and myself, and that we were next. And he tells me, if you don't believe this, go to my house in Maynard, Texas, and talk to my wife. So I show up in Maynard at his house. I knock on the door. No answer. And he describes his house. He says the cartel have been to his house. The windows are broken out and there's a hole in this window. He's described all this to me in stories, and everything is real at his house that he describes. He's like, my house is nearly empty. And I had heard about his home because he claimed that his parents had been killed. They were FBI agents. So his parents were killed when he was younger. And then on his way to a diner with a $20 bill, waiting for his parents, the mafia had killed his parents by mistake. So in his house, my friends would tell me there's a Christmas tree, as it happened right before Christmas. So he has a Christmas tree in his house 365 days a year. And on his wall, he's got a $20 bill framed in remembrance of his parents. So I get back in the car and I call him and I say, man, Gloria's not answering the door. He's like, oh, she's so freaked out. I got to let you know she has a gun, but I'm going to tell her to open the door. So I knock on the door again. And I'm like, Gloria, it's Eric. Please open the door. And she opens the door and puts a Glock and cocks it at my forehead. And for the next 10 minutes, she holds it. Now she's 5'3". She holds this gun, her hands shaking, pressed against my forehead. And I talked to her about the death of her son. And she's crying and telling me that her son is murdered and that it's my fault because her husband was helping me, and then my ex-wife trying to kill my kids got her son killed. So whatever you think I didn't know and I was stupid about, you tell me a mother who's a doctor puts a gun to your forehead and tells her her kid's dead. What do? You write more checks to keep your kids alive. So within 3 weeks, I write a check again. I take my daughter. This is the craziest thing. I take my daughter to a jumpy house. I'll take a little more coffee.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some coffee right now.
I take my daughter in broad daylight to a jumpy house in Round Rock. And at this point, I had actually asked a police officer about what I should do. And they're basically like, well, if your kid gets kidnapped, then we can do something. Without that, I don't know what to tell you. And everyone asks me all the time, like you did, Greg, why don't you go to the police? They're like, but you believe this is the police.
Yeah.
You believe this person is who he says he is. And he has unbelievable information about your life that you would never know. And now his son is dead. And I kept saying to myself, no one would kill their own son. This has to be real. No wife or mother would tell me that story.
So his son's legitimately dead.
And his youngest son shows up to hockey practice crying. All the kids that are on my ex team believe that Eventine is dead. I literally am holding this 16-year-old kid in my arms in the lobby of the crossover while he sobs in my arms and says, Coach Perardi, it's my fault that my brother's dead because my dad told me not to call him. And I called him, and they triangulated the call, and they found out where he was. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life. So you go a few weeks more, I go to the Wells Fargo over at 45th and 35, and I write another check to James. And then I have my daughter with me, and I'm just like, I want to just do something with my daughter today. I'm just going to take off of work. Like, I've not done any work. I'm like disappeared. I'm living on people's couches. I'm paranoid of everywhere I go. So I take Mazzy to this like trampoline place that's over there, and we park the car. We go inside, and her and I jump around. We're having the best day ever. And I come back out to my car, and the windshield is completely shattered out of my car on her car seat. So her car seat's in the back passenger thing. If you're going to break into someone's car, you don't shatter the window at the car seat. So there's glass everywhere where my child sits. In my car, I've got $400,000 or $500,000 worth of checks. So you could have stolen millions of dollars of my businesses. I can't write those checks, but if somebody wanted to, they could have written a check, got money out of the crossover, out of these things. I had business checks in my backpack. I had my computer. I had her iPad. I had my passports. I had my wallet. The girl I was dating, we had gone to see the Elton John concert. So I had a safe inside my car. And inside my car, I had a gun in the safe. And there was only one person in the world that knew the combination of the safe in my car. So we'll just skip that of how they knew the combination of the safe in my car.
Mm.
The only thing missing in my car is my loaded gun and my girlfriend's wallet, which has her address and credit cards in it. Suddenly I get a phone call from her saying she got a fraud alert. People are using her credit cards up and down 45. This is like 3 p.m. Mazzy's crying. The car seat's broken into. I call James first. Well, at first I called 911 with the Round Rock police. And then I called James, and he's like, our friend's and Coda was always away solving my problems on a plane somewhere else. Couldn't be. I was like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, don't call the police. I'm like, I've already called the police. So there's camera footage all over the parking lot, and the cameras are pointing right at my car. So the jumpy place can see who broke into my car. And the woman there is like, yeah, as soon as the cops get here, I'll let you see it. So the cop doesn't show up for 45 minutes. And when he does show up, it's a canine patrol cop. It's not even a beat cop. Like, he's got a dog in the back. And the guy is real sketch. Like, doesn't really, I'm like, do you want my serial number and my gun? Oh, we'll get that later. You know, Nicole, my ex-girlfriend's there by this point. She's like trying to like give him my credit cards are gone. She's like, I had an old driver's license in there. So now they know my address. And he's like, yeah, here's my card. I said, well, there's video inside. So we go inside and he's like, okay, let me watch it first. He watches the video and comes out. He goes, I can't let you watch it. I go, dude. And there were like 2 cars that I saw suspiciously. Again, when you're being followed or you think you're going to be killed, you were watching everything. There were 2 cars in the parking lot when I wrote the check to James that just didn't seem right. And I was like, was it a white Toyota? You know, I started describing the car. He's like, I can't say. I was like, well, do you want my serial number, my gun? Here's my number. Call me later. So look, I don't know if that guy's on the take or just not a good cop, but you can imagine the story I got from Coda. That guy's in on it. He's part of the cartel working with the Toyota dealership. He goes, I have for a fact that 3 other cops were on their way. He called them off. How long did it take him to get there? I was like 45 minutes. Was he even a cop? He was a canine, wasn't he? He wasn't even a real, like, he knew everything about it.
No.
So I write more checks. So at this same time, Greg, and I know you know this, and I think your father passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've all lost our fathers, right? My dad is dying. So my dad's got Parkinson's and he's in the hospital. And I've borrowed a lot of money from my parents. And there's only a few people that knew what was going on, my parents being one of them. And they're continuing to give me money to keep my children safe. So my dad's in the hospital and these motherfuckers are literally calling me. It's the night of the ice storm. If you remember the ice storm in January 31st, 2023, they're calling me and asking me for more money. They're showing up in the parking lot of the hospital telling me we need more money. There's more threats. And then Coda's calling me with, oh my God, I know what it's like. My dad died. You know, my dad died. I empathize with you. Like, it was weird because, you know, when I ran out of money and I couldn't write a lot more checks, then the calls would be about his kid, how much he missed his son. And he would cry on my shoulder, or he'd invite me out to lunch to talk about his other son and how he can't handle this. And his wife is going off the rails. And so now we're best friends. And now he's alienated me from every friend I have. And after the gun incident, break in, I don't have any more money. So I go to a friend and ask him for money. And Coda offers this flag. This is going to be very important. This flag is like 6 foot by 8 foot and it sits in his bedroom and it's bulletproof glass. And behind the flag is this Civil War flag. And it's tattered and torn. So when the Union, in the Civil War, when the South broke off, the first from July of 1861 to November of 1861, all the U.S. flags for the Confederate were versions of the U.S. flag. They were red and white and blue flags with stars. And every time a Southern state joined the Confederacy, a new star was added. So he had a flag that had 10 stars and a giant star in the middle. If you guys know your history, the last state to join the Union was Texas. And the Texas star is always bigger than any other star. So this thing is legit. Like looks like it's from legit. And his wife is like, oh yeah, all of his friends, Coda's owned it since 1954. His grandfather had it. It is an antique dealer in New York City. You know, this thing has been in our family forever. It's worth like $2.5 million. So he gives me this flag. I actually drove to his house, strapped it in the back of my truck, which is a 6-foot bed truck. The thing is like $2.5 million. I had to get bungee cords that I bought at Walmart, strap this thing down. Gloria and I load this thing into the car. Coda's there. He has to go off to save my family. And I bring this thing to my home. So from November till April, this thing sits in my home. Now, my ex took all the furniture. I got this 6,000 square foot home. My kids and I are living in it. It's like a milk carton and whatever else I got left. But I have this flag. So this flag is in my home and I stare at this thing all the time. And I'm constantly like, because he's like, don't do research on the internet. Constantly like trying to figure out if this thing's real, not real. And by all accounts, it's real. So when my dad dies, I just unravel, like drinking too much, staying up late night, like just the threats are getting worse. I don't have any money left. By this point, I've given him $900,000, almost $1 million. And what is so crazy, I got saved October 16th, 2022, in the middle of all this. And if I look at every moment from that date forward, more truth started to be revealed to me. So his son dies before then.
Yeah.
And everything after that, things started to unravel in his direction. So it's important to note that my son was sent away to Connecticut, the one that I thought was going to be kidnapped, to play hockey. He told me not to go back to Dallas. He didn't make the team and I was going to bring him home. He's like, no. If he makes that team in Connecticut, go to Connecticut. So my son had started dating this girl at home. He's in high school. They met on like Instagram or something, and they stay dating this whole time.
Yeah.
So over Thanksgiving, in the middle of this scam, my first ex-wife invites me over for Thanksgiving, and her and I were not on good terms prior to my other marriage, but because I told you I was unfaithful in that marriage. So we were reconciling with this second marriage going on. So she invites Eris and his girlfriend and Eris's dad, or girlfriend's dad, to the Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I meet this guy, Steve Tolan. And we start talking. And I said, what do you do? He says, I'm a criminal defense attorney. So this is November of 2022.
Mm.
He says, I'm a criminal defense attorney. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's fascinating. I'm like, hope I never need that. And I'm in the middle of this scam. And I don't dare tell him what's going on because I'm just terrified to tell anyone. So my dad dies, flag sitting in the house. I'm like adamant that I'm going to find out what the value of this flag is. He's telling me that he's going on these missions to try to save my family. At this time, a cartel member has been beheaded at the border. They found a picture of my kid and his kid from the hockey with my kid's face circled on it and X'd out. I'm being told these just insane stories. That they have my address. They're going to find my kid in Connecticut. We need more money to protect him. Insane stories. My kid's telling me that there's cars driving by his house. I got people driving by my house. Like, the paranoia is off the charts. So a friend of mine who works for the Secret Service Agency gets me, I just keep telling him about this flag. So he gets me the number of this flag dealer. And I literally email this guy in the middle of the night. And I never forget this because I woke up the next morning and I got an email back. And I said to the guy, look, I was given this flag as an investment. And I don't know what it's worth. And he emails me back. He goes, that's funny. I actually own that flag. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, can you call me? So I pick up the phone. I call this guy out of Ohio. And he said, yeah, about 2 years ago, this guy, St. Jovite Youngblood, military guy, tattooed, works for the cartels, real scary dude. And his wife, Gloria, came to a show in Dallas. And he bought this flag for me for $80,000. But he's been sending me it in segments. This guy, Marvin, who I've written checks to and know, has been wiring me money, and he still owes me 40. I said, what did you say his name was? He said, St. Jovite Youngblood. So I quickly text my friend who told me about the flag, and he runs that through a federal database. Well, St. Jovite Youngblood had been convicted of stealing coins from people in California, pretending to be in the military, had told everyone that his kids and his family were killed in a drunk diving accident, had burnt down 2 homes, and taken all the money and went to gamble it all away in Australia.
So the veil has now been torn.
And I, from January 31st till March 31st, had been begging my Father in heaven and my real Father in heaven, both God and my dad, please just give me the answers. All I'm asking for is, if this is real, let it be real. If it's not, let it not be. So I'm sitting And now I've lost $900,000. And the person that I thought was my friend is a con artist. And I call my son in Connecticut and I say, "Are you still dating Bentley?" And he's like, "Yeah, Dad, why?" I said, "I need Steve Toland's phone number." He gives me Steve Toland's, the criminal lawyer. Yeah. I call Steve Toland.
Wow.
Now this is God again. Steve Toland is one of the most well-respected criminal defense attorneys in all the state of Texas. But Steve, a lot of times, will represent guys like Youngblood, like people that are wrongly accused. He knows your lawyer. He's best friends with the guy that got you out of jail.
Keith?
Yeah.
Wow.
Keith and Steve are best of friends.
Wow.
He knows all about your case. And Steve is like, I tell him a little bit on the phone. He's like, "Come to my office right now." So I drove to his office in Westlake and I'm like in tears. I've got like audio messages and I had written all of this down. I'd kept track of it all the way through. So I lay out this fantastic story to Steve and Steve's like, "I believe you." So Steve calls the U.S. Attorney's office, Matt Guess, and within 24 hours, he has me in the FBI's office. I mean, 24 hours later, I'm in the FBI's office and I'm walking through the door and it's the FBI office is over off of 183. I mean, you got to go through the gun thing, the metal detectors. There's a window in there where they're videotaping me and they're asking me questions. And I lay out this 3 hours of this insane story and they videotape it all. They're like, "All right, this sounds pretty crazy." And I remember the FBI saying to me, "Look, we're under a mandate that we don't investigate anything under $1 million in the white collar crime division." I said, "Well, I gave him $900,000. I'll give him another $100,000. I probably could borrow it from somebody just to, if that's what it takes." I'm like, "What do you mean? Like this guy's stolen all my money." And they're like, "Well, we're going to have to look into it." So by the next day, they'd found 12 other cases that had gone reported and never followed up.
Wow.
Now they're like, "Holy crap, you've got the great white whale."
You got a serial scammer here.
Serial scammer. So they call me and they're like, "I need you to start audio taping everything he says to you." So for the next 3 days, every phone call I had, I've got hours and hours of audio tape. And it's...
So now you're going undercover with the FBI.
Right. But then they call me and say, "Okay, we want you to really go undercover." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Yeah. They're like, "We need you to go undercover. Would you do that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
That's so badass.
And look, I was an actor and a writer in LA, right? So I was like, God put me in this role. Like I've been on stage, I've been in TV series, I know how to play someone else. And to this day, I still could barely remember most of that conversation. I know I went unconscious and just played whatever but me and the FBI agent came up with this story. So they hired this huge guy. He looked like something out of Hell's Angels. I mean, just tatted up, massive 350-pound biker looking dude, beard. His name was Joe. It's not his real name. So Joe and I have like 2.5 hours to come up with a story that's believable to get to young. And I've had the FBI on 3-way calls with me and him, because now he's so desperate for money at this point. He's actually let me have one of his cell phone numbers. So now they've traced it and they found out that he's always had a cell phone and they know who he is, obviously with a name. So now we're doing phone calls. So now the FBI is listening to me talk to him. And then Joe and I come up with this story that Joe lived in my neighborhood. He'd come over and he'd seen the flag and he asked me the question about it. He knew about my ex-wife's infidelity. And he's one of these anti-government guys. He's got a bunch of cash and he's like, "Dude, what's going on?" I'm like, "My kids are going to be killed. I need another $70,000. And it was always, "Hey, this will be it. I'm going to get it." And, and he had the story about, "Oh my God, her, the Toyota dealership is laundering cartel money and, they've got all these hits and there's so much reason why they were able to keep going." So Joe and I meet with him at Johnny Caraba's on 183. And there are 3 FBI agents inside, FBI agent out in the car, an FBI agent walking by. And it's crazy because they literally have like a key card, like you get into a parking garage, and he's got like a wallet like mine. So of course Coda tells him to turn the phone off, and he's like, set your phone down here, make it off. But this is actually what busted him, because it's in there and that recorded the whole thing. So for 2.5 hours, he tells this undercover officer everything that I told the FBI. And I, of course, know he loves to talk. So I'm like, tell him about the time when your son was killed. Tell him about, when Eris was in Vegas. So he repeats the entire 9 months of lies on audio tape.
I bet you this is like some sort of relief for you too right now.
I mean, but then I get in the car with him. So he's going to give he has all these memorabilia things that he was borrowing money from people and using them. He claims he had a bat from Lou Gehrig and another bat from Babe Ruth that had DNA on it. And he was going to give the FBI agent this bat. It's worth millions of dollars and it's wrapped in cellophane. So I have to get in the car with him, which I'm still mad at the FBI for, and drive on the other side of the highway to meet James. And then we get the bat and drive back and give it to the FBI. I get in the car with him and he pulls a hatchet out from underneath the seat and he's got guns in the car. He's like, man, I hope this is not a scam. Like, this guy's legit, right? He goes, I'll get rid of people that, I know what to do. I'm like, Coda, we're like, dude, we're best friends. Like, I'm about to piss my pants. Like, this dude is literally threatening my life. And I've just went undercover with the FBI.
Wow.
So we go over, get the bat, get the thing, and then I bring the flag to the FBI. So then I should tell you that during this whole time, he had ramped up social media posts against me. So there were, all the time this was going on, there were letters being sent to investors of mine, and then 4,000 posts being tagged all over the internet that I was a pedophile, that I was sex trafficking children, and money laundering out of the crossover. So like every person I knew wouldn't speak to me. And they're getting letters and things that I didn't know about. And like Google reviews, Yelp reviews of every restaurant in the crossover, Move, whatever else. Eric Perardi involved the cartel, sex trafficking, and now I realize obviously he's probably behind this, but they don't arrest him until July. So from April, when I went undercover, till July, when they arrest him, this gets worse. So now my job is every day to sit on the computer and look up my name, because the FBI says we don't have enough resources to do this. And for 5 months, I just uncover the worst things that you could ever imagine. I mean, you know what you were accused of.
Yeah.
Like just being said about me in every publication you could imagine.
Yeah.
And the FBI. So then in July, this is where it gets even more insane, if you can imagine. They find this guy, Lane. Now, Lane is James's son. Lane is a computer programmer that worked for Amazon and has a PhD. Lane was convinced by Coda that his children were going to be kidnapped and sex trafficked. So Lane changed him and his family's names 5 times, and he tattooed his new name per Coda's request onto his hand. They found Lane and his family living in an extended stay hotel in Jacksonville, Florida, where they'd been for a year. Lane was severely diabetic, and him and his kids were living in this hotel, not homeschooling them and not leaving. And Coda was paying for him to be there. And Lane was sitting on the computer destroying my life.
Jeez. So wait, so during this time where you're getting scammed, he also has these other jobs happening at the same time? Other victims he's doing this to?
So we're at 46 victims now.
And this is all happening simultaneously, or?
All of it. He creates this world and story that we all live in, that we are literally characters of.
Nice.
And so this guy, look, Lane, I still think is guilty too. James, I mean, it's funny because a lot of these people that have looked through it, they're victims and perpetrators. They follow this weird line, right? But yeah, this guy was literally destroying my life. And it took the FBI 4 months to 5 months to bring it out. He was routing it. This guy's a computer genius. He's routing these things onto servers, just like you'd see in the, it's not as easy as go find the thing and take it down. So there's so many other stories about Lane and all of this but the end of it all, when we finally go to trial, and I go to sentencing. His dead son walks in behind me. It's sentencing. Eventine. And the FBI didn't tell me they found him. They found him alive in California. And Eventine put his arms around me and hugged me, and he said, "Thank you, Coach Perardi, for putting my dad in jail, something I've wanted to do my whole life." So we go to sentencing, and there's Eventine, young Coda, and Gloria on this side. And on this side are 30 people that are victims. And then Coda and his defense attorneys. And his defense is Eric Perardi's the real criminal. He's a pedophile. And he's been doing all this to hide his money from his ex-wife. And he's the mastermind behind it all. So now not only is he in prison, but now I'm being painted as the person who really did all this, which obviously the FBI know is not true. But when they found Eventine had believed his entire life that he had been responsible for one of the fires at the homes in California. So when he was 8 years old, St. Jobite had told his son that he had burned down this house and there was a body in the house. A person died in the house. It wasn't until he was 22 years old when the FBI told him that that wasn't true. This kid had grown up believing not only that he was doing all these terrible things and his life was in danger, but he had been responsible for murdering someone. Not true.
This guy's sick.
It's the devil.
Jeez.
There's so many victims.
So
Right.
the rest of his family, though, like his wife and the other Coda, I mean, like, where were they at?
So Eventine's back in college. I think he's doing his master's degree. Young Eventine finished school and moved out there with his brother. I believe Gloria.
So the kid's name's not Coda?
Yeah, no, it's Coda. His name's real Coda. The real Coda's name is Dennis Schuler.
Oh,
Jr.
but so the young one's name is Coda?
Is Coda young?
Yeah.
Right. And then the other kid's Eventine, his brother. And then Gloria, I believe, is back in Chicago. It was crazy about her. She's first immigrant, Chinese immigrant. She put herself through med school and she owned a successful practice in California. And they found out that he had convinced her to sell her practice and took all the money. Now, what you guys should know is he's never traveled out of the country. He's never been in the military, and he took all of the money and gambled it away. So when we went into trial, they have CCTV footage of him in Vegas sitting at slot machines with black gloves and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in bags, and for 8 hours just pounding poker machines with $100,000.
So it was going out as fast as it's coming in.
He lost it all.
And that's your money too.
All my money.
Wow.
They've tied over $12 to $13 million to this, but he's been doing it for over 30 years. There's another 15 or 20 victims in California, and the FBI continually, and that's why I keep wanting to do things like this. There's going to be more victims.
Absolutely.
He's been doing this his whole life. He's only had one job his entire life. He was a used car salesman. That's how he met his wife, Gloria. He's had multiple ex-wives. He's faked the death of himself many times. He got a brain surgeon to pretend that he was dying of brain cancer to scam money out of somebody else. I mean, this guy is the devil, and God help me put him away.
That must at least be some sort of relief for you.
Yeah, I mean, he took my life apart to put him where he's at. And I do believe, I told you that the hardest part, and you guys have both been through it, is the shame.
Yeah.
When you were shamed about something you didn't do, which is one of the worst crimes in the world somebody can commit somebody of. I was accused of those things and then shamed for losing all this money. But there's an account that says that 15% of all fraud and financial victims report their crimes. Only 15%.
Yeah.
It's because of the shame and the embarrassment. So there's a couple.
Well, not only that too. And we'll just call a spade a spade. They don't give a shit. Like if they're in, because I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is a lot of money. But like you said, I mean, they didn't want to touch it because it was under $1 million, which is a shame. And a lot of scammers, they know to stay under that amount. It's kind of like, you get into the $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 crimes. Lawyers don't even want to take it because they're like, you're going to spend another $150,000, $250,000 just taking it to trial. So do you really want to waste your time? It's honestly so effed up,
right?
dude. It's
and
so
the credit
effed up.
you and I discussed this. The credit card companies come after you. The banks come after you. They destroy your credit. Like I'm a developer. I can't build buildings and do my job anymore because I have no access to money or lines of credit. I don't even have a credit card. And I have a federal case where the guy's actually indicted and there's a $12 million restitution judgment. I want to sue American Express and all the banks that are after me because they should be tied to his monetary value. That should be sent to him. So, one of the things I want to do with the shame movement, which I want to talk to you guys about, is to help victims of these crimes. Like if your guy or girl is convicted, you should be absolved of your debt. Mm-hmm. Your credit score should not be able to get destroyed every day. I mean, some of these families reverse mortgage their homes. Greg, this guy was perusing the death rolls of Afghanistan soldiers, getting to know their families, claiming he served with them, and then getting them to take out loans and borrowing money from them because he was friends with their family member. Yeah. The case of stolen valor and criminal injustice and manipulation. I mean, he's like the Hannibal Lecter, only we didn't die, which was much worse because most of the people are older and they wish they would have died. They're all like in their financial prisons in their homes. Most of them have never told their family or any of their relatives that this happened. Some of their kids don't know that all of their inheritances are gone. They've reverse mortgaged their homes. They're living in homes that they used to own outright. Now they pay rent to somebody else for it because the people feel bad and they haven't kicked them out of it. And these are all they're not like us who are entrepreneurs. These are W-2 employees living on Social Security with no money left and it's all gone.
Yeah. So he got convicted, tried, convicted, brought to justice. What did the jury give him?
So they gave him 90 years.
There's a difference between the jury sentencing and the judge sentencing.
90 years. Now, the trial was great. His defense was me. And who do you think his only witness in the trial was my ex-wife? She went up and testified against me.
What?
Luckily, the jury did not believe that testimony, but it's
good.
Yeah. But that was his defense, was that I had stolen them. And then he's still writing letters claiming that Steve Tolan, me, and the FBI are in a conspiracy to have him murdered in prison by the cartels. There's probably 20 letters written to the justice system right now, handwritten in manic behavior about how I'm this cartel. And on his way out of sentencing, he's yelling at me and the other victims that he's innocent and we're all the victims. Judge threw him out. So the jury gave him 90 years. The government went for 40. His sentencing should have been 17. And the crazy thing is, I told you, I remind you this, he got accounted for wire fraud and money laundering. And 3 of the 5 accounts were my way that I transferred money because I transferred from Washington State to Texas and then wrote the check. So it's like Al Capone. The only reason he's in jail is like tax evasion. Like he's not in jail for all those crimes. He got the extended sentencing because of all those crimes, but the government had the only thing they could prove and why none of those other people are in jail is because they went after him for a white collar victim. But yeah, the judge threw the book at him 40 years. So he's 52 years old. In federal prison, you have to serve 85% of your time.
He'll die in there.
So he's going to be in there for 32 or 33 years.
Yeah.
He's already been beaten up like 20 times and moved to several prisons. Because if you think about what did he claim? Sex trafficking children. He worked with the cartels. He was a federal agent and that he was military.
Yeah, he's got a target.
All of those are not true. Those are not things that people in prison enjoy, right, Greg? I mean, Greg, you know this, you were there. That's not somebody who's thought of highly. I said that if I ever did a documentary or Netflix or something, I'm sending all the copies to prison, free watch party for my friend.
Yeah.
I'll let God do his justice, but I certainly would love for his friends in prison to know what he did to all of us.
Yeah, I think the worst part is you go through all this and even though you trial finishes, he gets sentenced to all this time, you're still left with nothing, right? And I've been through the same thing. It's funny this is going on. There's another case that I actually lost a bunch of money. The FBI has got involved in there in a massive I'll never see $1.
Right.
No matter what's rewarded, no matter what restitution, no matter what judgment, you will never see that. He has nothing.
Nothing. It's all gone.
And that's like,
No.
so at some point though, you have to make the decision. And I think that's kind of where I want to lead to is like, look, I can continue to beat myself up in shame and guilt, or eventually you have to pick yourself up, and it's something we've all had to do. And like, yeah, that's what it is. And so like,
Yeah.
I want to kind of like jump into that now because, dude, like it has been a journey, and like I don't want to tell your story, but like from what I've like, you've had to do some things that I can relate to so well, in having to swallow my pride and just do things that are so humbling because you don't have another choice but to survive and figure it out. And like I said, I don't want to tell your story, but like I think the get back is what I want to like go into, because that's a hard, like you can continue to just beat yourself up in shame. And you've talked about like marriages that have been broken, and I can imagine this has just created torment in your kids' lives and trauma for your friends. I don't even want to say names yet. I know one of them that you're talking about, and like to see how it's affected them in their daily life through working with them in a completely whole nother aspect of just trying to do something to help them out. Like,
Right.
they're traumatized.
Right.
And I can understand that, but like, let's talk about the get back and what you have to do and have had to do and are doing currently to start to move forward with what's next in life. And this will always be a part of you. You're always going to have it, that in the back of your mind. And this is something you've had to go through, but not letting the shame and the guilt eat you up to be able to move forward.
Yeah. And I said this to someone the other day. This isn't something that happened to me. It's something that happened for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And God, I think, has asked me to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that's exactly right. Like the silence and the darkness is what keeps people like him alive. Right. Mm-hmm. And it talks about the Bible over and over again, but that's the problem, is the shame, being a victim. I mean, there's so many times that I thought this should be it in my life, and the Bible saved my life. We talked about that. You got to stand back up. Like if I just fall and stay down, he wins, they win. If I get back up, not even monetarily, just as a person, for my children, they need a dad. For me, my mom, my father passed away. My mom needs me as a son. It's just about empowering yourself again to go from victim and prisoner to redeemer, from taking yourself at the bottom and saying, this happened to me. Oh, poor me. Can't believe this happened, to this happened. What do I do with it? What can I do for other people? And I think that's where, I really want to make a change. And I look at all the things that I wish that I could have had during these times, like a therapist to talk to, a lawyer, like you said, who would touch a case like this, somebody help me with the IRS, some sort of, monetary help at times when I need it. I mean, you're begging your friends for money, you're begging your family for money, and you're just like, one more time. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever get it back. They don't know if they'll ever get it back. I feel like I want to get it back to them. It's not for lack of trying. It's funny because my oldest son, who's not a Christian, he's just kind of finding his way, said something to me. He said, Dad, I don't know if I believe in Jesus, but you being saved and you believe in it, you're a better person and a better dad now since all this happened to you. Not that you weren't before, but he was like, I know that Jesus saved your life. Now, this is someone who doesn't necessarily even believe that our Savior is his Savior, but he recognized that. And then my other two sons, Eris and Trace, the two that went through it the most, got saved with me, torn, baptized, the three of us. I got saved again to do it with both of them. And they're like following the word and reading the word. Like like we were not a church family, right? It was not part of our DNA. I mean, I grew up Catholic guilt, but it wasn't part of my DNA. And now my kids are like, my son's in Nashville, and I send him Torrin's message every week, and he watches it. And, him and his friends pray at the end of every hockey game at center ice.
Yeah.
And, what's crazy, Zeke, is I have made so many incredible friends that are victims of St. Jobite Youngblood. They're now like family to me. And you say, oh, the survivor kind of co-experience, but these are great people that I never would have met in my life, never would have interacted with, had just totally different worlds. And they've become like second parents to me, friends with me. And I call them when I'm down, and they call me when they're down. And we've gotten to work, we've had meetings together, work together. And I share with them about the shamedmovement.org that I want to do. And they're giving me advice about what they could have used. And they're talking to me about, things that would have helped them. And I get to hear their stories. And they call me a hero. I'm like, well, God's the hero. But they're like, we didn't go to tell anyone this happened to us.
No.
We were so ashamed and so embarrassed. You weren't afraid. You weren't afraid to go expose your life and say, I'm stupid. This happened to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how it was going to turn out.
Yeah.
And I don't think of that as bravery. I was just like, I don't know. I got to do something for my kids. Like I can't just allow this to happen and not be a voice.
No. Eric, before we got into your get back, you pulled that cross necklace out. And I love that you did that because, in Romans, it talks about that whoever believes in him, they're no longer put to shame. You don't operate in shame. If you did not give yourself to Christ, you would still be locked in your shame. And as a father, and you said the most important thing in the world to you is your children. As a father, where I want to give you your flowers is, I heard this a few weeks ago in a church service. My pastor had explained, it was like a men's conference we were attending. And he talked about the statistics between children in a house when it comes to becoming Christians, when it comes to like the father and the mother studying the word, living out the word, operating in faith and leading in faith, right? When the father does it, the children are more likely to tap into their faith or ask more questions or be more driven, right? And then when the mother does it, it's really nice, it's really sweet, right? And it's really cool that my mom's doing that. But something about a father when he does it, it's like, I want to be more like him. I want to be more like my dad, right? And the statistics, let me ask you this. Let me ask you, Zeke, right? You have a mom and I have a mom, and growing up during Mother's Day, what do mothers want to do on Mother's Day? Go to church, right? Go to church, gather up the kids, put them in the car, go to church. Let's go ahead and on the contrary. What do fathers want to do on Father's Day? They want fishing, grilling, golfing, right? But mothers aren't actually called to lead in faith to their families. They're there to nurture. They're there to be that I've seen this with Summer a lot. Like, it's just children, they're amazing at teaching, right? And that's why now being a father, she is the most important thing in the world to me, right? She is the greatest teacher. When she wakes up, she's joyous. She's ready to start her day. I'm like, you know what? Thank you for that example. I maybe don't need to just have my coffee before I'm in a good mood. Maybe I can wake up in a good mood just like you do, right? Or for instance, for you, now that you're leading your family in faith, you're completely changing the lineage and the bloodline of your family.
And you're undoing the past of your sins as your family fathers, right?
Exactly. And I said this before, in alignment to my mission and the Vindication Foundation, and this other guy that we had on who's just, beat cancer. He wants to go out there and visit hospitals and be there for people that have cancer and go out there and attack cancer head on. Your mess is now your mission. And that is the only way that you keep the monsters away. Is your mess needs to turn into your mission. And that's what you're doing right now. And you only could do that when you pick up that cross each and every day. And when you do, you put shame to bed and you don't operate it. When people make fun of you or call you foolish for spending all that money, you're just like, those are my battle scars, bro. And somebody else is going to get them, but I'm going to go and fight.
It's funny. I was thinking about this today before we came, and, you know, I looked up in the Bible, shame. And the only person that we can feel shame for is God. And it kind of came, I was like thinking about it. Mankind's shame is horizontal. God's shame is vertical. This is the only person we have to answer to. This is all bullshit. The shame that we feel, that this shame lasts a lifetime, that shame can be forgiven in an instant. And all you have to do is ask for that forgiveness. This follows you for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. But which is more important?
I think the one thing too that, like, when we're just the world that we live in now has become, and I mean, we see it this week more than ever with like Charlie Kirk and everything that's going on, the poor girl in North Carolina, but everything is so public. Right. So the shame and the guilt you feel when you make a mistake now is so much heavier than if it was 20 years ago, when you could have made this, I'm not going to say mistake, you could have been involved in this situation, but nobody knows about it.
Right. It wouldn't leave your town.
Yeah, right. Like same with you, your situation, my situation, like all of our, and then you start reading it. And we've all been through that phase where we're interested in what everybody else has to say, and you start to believe it.
Right.
And then you're embarrassed and you're full of that. But I think it's more about what God says, like exactly what you're saying. What is he saying about us versus what they're saying about us? The rest of the world is saying about us. And with where you're at now, I think the other thing that I can relate to is like, there was a point in my life, and I think from what I'm hearing from you, where it's like the thought of having money or being seen as having money was like, I'm the big guy,
yeah, it was like, everything, right?
And what it's taught me by going through similar situations and losing money and bad deals and things like this is that none of that means anything.
No.
Like, it sucks because you really can't live without it, and life's really not enjoyable if you can't comfortably. It's tough.
Right.
But it has given me a completely different perspective, and it's allowed me to just be comfortable and content with what I have. That doesn't mean that you don't have to go work to provide for your family and things don't get financially stressful, but I don't care what he or she thinks I have in my bank account or how successful I am by what I have accomplished. It's like none of that matters to me anymore.
Right.
And talking about you leading this life now where it's more like, hey, I've lost it all. Like, I'm moving forward. I'm choosing to walk by faith. Like, and I'm going to trust that God's going to open the doors back up. And he will. He's going to. He already is. But where are you at in your faith journey of moving forward? And like, what do you still battle with every day? Because you can't sit here and be like, oh, I'm good now. I've just gotten over it, right? Like, because that would be bullshit. That would be bullshit for me to say. That'd be bullshit for him to say. Like, there's still those days where it's like, how the fuck did I get here, dude?
Right.
How did I get to Texas selling roofs? Like, how,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's
yeah. And that's the thing is where I used to turn to anger, mm-hmm. and I used to turn to frustration and disappointment. I found myself turning back to the Bible. And I had this conversation this week about the Charlie Kirk situation. When 9/11 happened and some of the other stuff, like big things like that, I was just so angry as a human being. So angry.
Yep.
And this week I was just sad. Mm. And I think it's the evolution of what I've been through and really understanding where God's purposes are in life. I was always sad. I just chose anger as the outward mobility of it. But I was sad for humanity. Mm. And I think on those days that you get sad, you know, if you can go back to the word or go back to today's not nearly as bad as when I thought my kids were going to get killed, or when you were going through a financial thing, or when you were in prison. And I remember this is what is so incredible about Greg. I told you I'd come back to this. We sat in this coffee shop, and I am just a mess. Like, wife's cheating on me, losing money, don't know what the hell was going on in my life. All these lies are being said about me. And Greg is talking to me about God. And he's talking to me about what God did for him in prison. And he's talking to me about how he found the word in prison. And here he is, accused of this horrible crime and more than likely a target, but he's finding ways to minister guys in prison who normally would probably kill him or beat him up. And he's just like created a world inside of hell that God allowed him to be in. And then when he got out, and I know there were days where he was like, I can't do it. But Greg Kelly was a hero for me because I was like, man, if Greg Kelly can survive prison and Greg Kelly can survive the things that were said about him, and God was on his side, and if I take God on my side, then I can survive this. So it's just, I mean, I don't know if Greg ever knows what it did for me, but that day, I mean, I was pretty low that day. And getting to meet guys like you and Greg and some other people, David Anderson, Greg's father-in-law,
right?
I mean, the OG, texts me, hugs me, tells me he loves me. Yeah. Him and Tracy, their family has been extraordinary through the whole thing. I think that God puts, and to your point, no matter how low we get, he sends these little angels to us.
Yeah.
And now that we're open to it, now that we've seen the Holy Spirit, those things were always there. You know, you look back in your life, those angels were there. Those times where you had the drunk driving incidents or whatever else, and you told me you could have died, didn't die, right? They were there. We just attested them to luck. Oh, I'm too good, or this didn't happen to me because I'm so cool, or or whatever. But it was just this little bit of safety all along the way.
Eric, like I'm just honored that God allowed me to be a vessel for you, and it's all Jesus, bro. Like as much as people like you just honor me and say what I've done, man. If it wasn't for Jesus Christ in my own life and how much I needed him when I was going through prison, I would have to take those thoughts of hatred, of unforgiveness, of bitterness, and take them captive and throw them away. And I can only do that by crucifying them. Like, I remember when I went to a church in prison, we would have this thing called the Kairos walk, and there would be this cross that they would bring in, and every inmate, everybody, doesn't matter who you are, but you're dealing with something. I mean, you've got thorns in your side, either being an addiction or you got unforgiveness, you have trauma, you've been trespassed upon, you're a victim of something. They would bring this cross, and we would all get these sticky notes, right? Just a stack of sticky notes. And the pastor would come in and say, all right, you know what it is? This is every year. Write down something that you want to nail to this cross, right? Something that you want to put at the feet of Jesus. And for me, I always just wrote down unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, hatred. Man, I hated Joffrey Purrier. I hated Janet Duty. I hated Patricia Cummings. I wrote all their names down on a sticky note, and they would give us sticky tacks, and we'd put it on the cross, the act of it. So I was, I had to pick up my cross and nail that stuff to the cross. So let me ask you this, and I want you to answer it. Have you forgiven Coda? And you answer as honest as possible. And if you haven't, that's a journey that you and God are still going to go on. And if you have, then, I can just tell you that there's a lot of freedom in it. And,
I like to think that I have, and I've done the exercise, Greg, where I've written it down and I've said the prayers, and man, I try so hard for that forgiveness. Some days are better than others. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely know that is part of my journey. And I definitely know that that's something that I need to settle with.
I'll be honest, like, I don't know. That's like have you forgive Jonathan?
I've forgiven everyone who's done this to me.
And I'm just curious because it's like, it's a good question to ask because it's like, have I forgiven them or have I forgiven myself and just moved on?
So the part of forgiveness is, and in the root of it, it's not for them, it's for you, and it's in order to move on. And when you really truly know that you've forgiven somebody, is when you pray for them and you pray for their salvation.
I definitely have done that, and I definitely, the old me, because I'm a lot, we're all athletes, was like, I want to kill this person. Like, I hope these terrible things happen to them. And I definitely have had those thoughts. But now, even like I said this to my son yesterday, who's obviously a little politically different to us. I said, I actually pray for this kid, Tyler, that he finds Jesus in prison. And that he's like, we don't need, maybe the death penalty, whatever they want to do. But the kid's 22 years old. He's my son's age. And whatever brought that moment on, and as terrible as it is, I pray for his family, pray for him, I pray for Coda, pray for Charlie Kirk's family, like all of that. Like, there's just no, it's not our job, right?
No. And the thing about forgiveness is,
it's hard.
It's
I know.
It's just a good question because like, have I don't know. There's certain situations where I'm like, I don't know if I guess I've made the conscious decision in my mind to forgive them without saying it out loud. I don't know.
So here's the thing about forgiveness, and this is how I felt. And it's not an overnight thing. It's a lifelong thing. It's just like your faith with Christ. He talks about how I'm not real big into like once saved, always saved. I do think that you can be cut off and thrown into the fire and he'll spit you out, right? If you become lukewarm, I truly wholeheartedly believe that you can lose your salvation. It's not a one and done thing, right? Because he tells us to pick up our cross daily. And if we don't produce good fruits, we will be cut. And that's the thing, is like, a forgiveness is a daily thing, dude. Like, do I have hatred in my mind? Of course, I'm a sinner. I've got this flesh that's still on me. But because I choose Christ, I can continue to say, when I get that feeling that Jesus, I know that you are good. I know that you are able to heal me. Do I have trauma? Absolutely. Would I be pissed if Jonathan was sitting in that sofa right there? Absolutely. I'd probably walk out. I would. I'm not in a position to be able to be in a room with him, right? When I was in jail, I requested to see him, to have a one-on-one talk, because we were both on the news. Both of our faces were on the news, and there was a lot of questions I needed to ask him. I needed answers. He refused to have that meeting with me. But I would like to tell myself at that point, even though I had accepted Christ, that I would just sit there and listen. But I promise, I know within my heart at that moment, I would have attacked him. I would have, because I was so pissed. Am I saved? Absolutely. Did I forgive him at that point? No.
So you're as crazy as you got. Imagine this. So I had to sit on a stand for 17 hours, 2 days.
But it would just make it easier if they just said sorry.
I know, but he's sitting there.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's sitting there looking.
I never get it. It would be easy for me to say I forgave you if you just said sorry to me. Like, it's the same thing. He walked out of the room and he blamed you. Like,
right. Well, I know. Well, with my ex,
that's a
my ex-wife has never said she was sorry.
I know.
I know. Right? Like, I would love that. So,
but I feel like it would be easier for me to say, yes, I have. I have for sure forgiven them if they have said sorry to me.
Well, that's mercy, though.
I know.
But grace is what God gives us each and every day when we don't say sorry to him. And we still get blessings in our life. He reigns on the bad, the good, and the ugly. But like, Jesus came to give us grace.
Yeah. No, and I've been given plenty of grace.
Yeah.
And I honestly give people a lot of grace. But I'm more like, when you're listening to you and I'm like angry for you. And so that's where it's just like, it's a great question. And I think it's a question that a lot of people have to ask themselves. Have you actually forgiven that person or that, yourself? If that's it, like,
it's absolutely.
Have you actually made that decision? And like, I'll be honest, I think there's a couple people that like I need to actively do some more praying and forgiving for them. Like, if I'm just being honest with myself, like, you obviously couldn't answer that question wholeheartedly, like, but it made me realize, like, you know what? I got some things like I need to work on.
No, absolutely. We all do. And you always ask yourself, like, when you're caught in a few things that you know are bad for you. Like for me, I've got vices and everybody has vices. And we always, like, we never actually do the soul searching of why do we still entertain this in our life. And, you know, when it comes to forgiveness and every time you choose forgiveness, I think you can break away from those vices a little bit more. It's a byproduct of a symptom.
Yeah.
And so, it is absolutely critical. It's absolutely critical to move on. I do not believe you can move on if you do not forgive. You can't.
Yeah. And I think,
That's for sure.
man, that's the thing you asked me, right? So, I'm 23, 24 years older than you guys. So arguably, I hope I got 30 more plus years or whatever it is. But I'm going to live about as long as you guys have been alive left in my life. And what I know is I'm not living the next 30 years the way I lived the first 54. Yeah. And those 30 can be serving people, loving my children, being a better human, helping other people. Or I can spend those 30 in a prison, still pissed off, still angry, and a victim.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I think, it's funny. I said this the other day. You guys are still too young too. You don't wear glasses. And when I take my glasses off, the world is very blurry. When I put my glasses back on, I can see. And I feel that's what's happened to me with God coming into my life and Jesus coming into my life. The world looks very different to me now than it did before. And I still make mistakes and like everyone else, but I don't see the world. I don't react to the world the way I reacted to it before. And I think that's just having God in me and actually learning, all of us need to soul search like Greg, like what put you in that position? What put me in that position? Like, did we deserve it? Probably not. But did we do things that put us in that position? Why did God choose that for us? We have to ask ourselves those questions. And those are the hard questions, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where I think the forgiveness starts with yourself, right? Have you forgiven yourself for what's happened to you? And then you can forgive those other people. Yeah. And that's when you ask God to forgive you. You forgive yourself. He forgives you. Then you can forgive them. But yeah, it's a daily struggle for sure.
Praise God, man. It's a blessing to be able to endure adversity, to have these challenges, because it does produce character. And you're gonna have the next 30 or whatever, however long God only knows the day when we leave, right? But
years laugh, I say, I'm sure you felt the same way. Well, he's not done with it yet because I woke up today. So he's got something else for me to do.
Absolutely. Right? Got a mission still for you.
Got a mission field, battle to go to.
As we wrap it up, Eric, thank you for being here, man. Thank you for telling your story. I just pray over you and continue to just, man, with your movement, your foundation you want to create, just pray over blessing over you, man. And I'm very honored to know you and get to see this in real time. It's just wild to think to just backtrack when David told me what was going on, and it's wild, man. But if you could share just one message to the world from what you've learned, right, through this whole experience. You talked about the old you, the new you, right? Blurry eyes. Now you can see. You've experienced something called amazing grace.
Yeah.
If you could share one message, what would it be?
I think to have empathy for what other people are going through, no matter what that is, like whether it's a divorce or addiction or something like what I went through with the shame of financial, like just be compassionate to other people and be there for them so they're not afraid to talk about what happened and the shame is not on them. I think we as a society are so quick to judge, and only God should judge. And I want to find some humanity back in our world where we actually put ourselves in a position of other people and ask ourselves, what would we do if we were put in that position? And how would we like someone to treat us? And how would we like them to make us feel? If I can do that for my children, for my friends, for anyone, just be compassionate and find empathy again.
Amen. Thank you, everyone, for tuning back into the Get Back podcast. We're so pumped up to fire this back up, to continue to bring you Get Back stories where people have turned pain into purpose and now continuing to live out their mission and purpose in this life that God has created them to do. So tune in next time. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. We'll see you on the next one.